friends, welcome back to Southwest Homestead. I was recently gifted about 3 boxes of small Granny Smith apples. I want to make the most of those. If I don't use them, I can feed them to my pigs and my horses and my goats. But while they're still fresh, I'm going to use as many as I can. One of the things I've been doing is making this apple pie filling. It's a really simple recipe. It's a wonderful gift to give away during the holidays. So I'm gonna make plenty of these. I am using a recipe from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Complete Book of Home Canning that I picked up at Tractor Supply. The recipe for the apple pie filling is on page 56, and it's a very simple recipe, very simple ingredients. I will type the recipe in the description of this video so that you can have it for quick reference. It calls for apple juice, lemon juice, sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, and then clear gel. Clear gel is a type of cornstarch that can be cooked. You do not want to use regular cornstarch. I know our grandmothers used it for years, but they say it's really not safe for home canning. So you want to use clear gel, and you want it to say cook type on it. There are 2 kinds of clear gel. One is a non-cook and one is a cook type. This is a great thickener, but it can be used in canning. I will be water bath canning this recipe, and the first thing I had to do was peel and core all of the apples and then blanch them. So I've got them blanching right now, and I'm going to take them out and get going on the recipe. So the recipe calls for 5 cups of apple juice. I don't have any apple juice, but I do have this wonderful cinnamon apple cider. My husband picked it up at an Amish store when he went to Missouri recently. Branson, Missouri, exactly. So I'm going to use all of this apple cider that I have, and I think that the concentration of it, because it is more concentrated than apple juice, will make up for what I don't have in apple juice. So this is 3 and 4, so that made 4 cups of apple cider. Pour the rest of that in there. Okay, so I'll make up the difference in the water. I really like this jug. I think I might try to see if I can find an airlock for it. It would be great for making a small batch of mead. Otherwise, it's just a cute jar. I have a problem with jars, collecting glass jars, ask my husband. Okay, so after that, I need 2.5 cups of water, and I'm probably just gonna do 2 cups. The recipe makes 7 quarts, but I'm only gonna make 5. I think that's how much apples I have. So I don't need quite as much liquid. So I did 2 cups, but I'll put the exact recipe in the description. Okay, then it also calls for 5.5 cups of sugar. I'm not gonna use 5.5, I'm gonna probably use exactly 5, just because I don't have quite as many jars to fill. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if you could go low sugar on this. I think the clear gel will thicken enough to make a regular pie filling, but I don't know how well it will set up. I do think that you could probably modify the sugar if you don't want to use quite that much sugar. So I got the sugar in. Now I need lemon juice, 3/4 of a cup. So this is 1/4 of a cup. This is lemon juice that I get from Azure Standard. You always hear me talk about Azure. It's really good quality lemon juice. So 1, 2, 3/4 of a cup of lemon juice, and then a tablespoon of cinnamon, and optional is a teaspoon of nutmeg. And we like cinnamon, and there's already some cinnamon in the cider, so tablespoon of cinnamon and teaspoon of nutmeg. I like nutmeg, so I will use it. I don't think that it's super noticeable in the flavor, but, and I've also seen people put cardamom, which sounds wonderful to me. Half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Get that going, and then I'm going to heat this up on the stove. And it says to combine the sugar, clear gel, and cinnamon in a large kettle on medium-high heat until mixture thickens and begins to boil. Add the apples in, stir constantly until bubbly and thick. So I'm just going to stir this liquid with the cinnamon and nutmeg until it kind of gets all blended together before I fold my apples in. You don't want to just dump the apples in there because then they'll be all coated with the cinnamon and it may not come out as smooth. So I'm just going to get this heating, and once it starts to simmer just a little and all of this seasoning is blended in well, I will go back and fold the apples in. At the same time, I am cooking a chicken carcass to make broth. I'll pull all the meat off the carcass and put that in the broth, and then I'll use that later in the week to make a chicken soup. We had roasted chicken for dinner, so that's just a wonderful way to use up that carcass and stretch a chicken. A lot of times when I don't have time to cook, if we happen to be near Sam's or Costco, we will pick up 2 or 3 of those rotisserie chickens and freeze them in our freezer, and then just thaw them out the day we want to use them and then roast them in that pot. It's so much cheaper to buy a whole rotisserie chicken that's perfectly seasoned and cooked to perfection, moist and inside, and it's cheaper to do that than to buy a whole chicken. Chickens are anywhere from $7 for a small chicken up to $15 for a larger size chicken. And the ones that you pick up at Costco or Sam's, I don't know, they're not organic, they're not free range, but for a meal for a family and a way to stretch a few meals out of it, you can't beat $4.99 for a chicken. So if you have a Sam's or a Costco, that's a suggestion I have for you. I like the Costco ones because they come in a bag, and then I just slip that bag into a Ziploc gallon bag and freeze it that way. While I'm waiting for my apple filling to thicken, you see I've gotten a smudge there. I want to show you this book that I bought. So this is created by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the USDA Food Preservation website is the authority on home canning and safe home canning. There are a lot of rebel canning groups out there, and I appreciate the things that they teach, but I urge you, if you're worried about the safety of your family, and especially if you're a beginning canner, always follow USDA guidelines. So the beginning has an introduction, and it tells you that it came from a bulletin number 539, which you could probably find on the website. Probably everything that's in this book can be found on the U.S. Department of Agriculture website. So there's a lot of information about canning. They talk about safety. Do your canned foods pass the test? Determining the altitude. You know, the time that you cook your food, you can it, either water bath or pressure can, is dependent upon the altitude that you live at for how much pressure you use, especially if you're pressure canning. Table of contents, and there's a whole bunch of information about canning. And so this is an excellent book for a beginning canner. But, you know, I've been canning for years, but I never, pass on a chance to have a resource that at my fingertips that can give me information that I need. So there's a lot of great recipes in here, and in the back of the book, there's an index, and it tells you all different types of food that you can can. It has a whole section on the vocabulary of canning, so glossary of terms. So if you have anything that you're not, like what is to blanch? So blanch is to dip the food in boiling water. I had to look up what blanching was. I didn't know when I started canning. but this book has a list of terms that you will hear in canning. And then you get into the index of foods, and you can see that when I was looking for apple pie filling, I looked at pie filling and it told me it was on page 56. But it tells you how to can all different kinds of foods: beef, beets, berries, broth, Brussels sprouts, cantaloupe. Who would have known you could can cantaloupe? I've never done that before, but anything you can think of that you might want to can that is safe to can is going to be in this book. So I just thought I'd show you what this was. Now, I got this at Tractor Supply. $17.99 is the listed price. So I think it's a great resource. I have the Ball book of home canning, complete guide to home canning. That's an excellent resource as well. I found that one at a thrift store. I thought that was a score. I'm waiting for these to begin to bubble, and they haven't. I can see that the juice is starting to thicken a little bit, but they still have quite a ways to go. So I'm sitting here wondering why it's taking so long for this liquid to thicken. And it occurred to me, and I need to go back and watch the video that I made originally, I did not put the clear gel in. I talked about the clear gel, but I didn't add it. I think it'll be fine to add now, but it would have been better if I would have put it in with the liquid originally. So learn from my mistakes. I'm gonna stop this, add the clear gel, and hope it thickens. So I'm not gonna lie and try to pretend that that wasn't a huge mistake. Adding the clear gel, it called for 1.5 cups of clear gel, and as you can see, there are lumps of clear gel. It should have been added to cool liquid. I would have been better off if I would have taken a little bit of water and put the clear gel in a jar and shook it up really good before I tried to pour it in, but I didn't do that. I added the clear gel right on top of this hot liquid, which makes it want to lump together and stick to the apple. So you can see me trying to break up. It's like when you have lumps in your gravy, or if you use cornstarch and it lumps up. That's what's happening here, and I'm trying to break up those lumps. I don't think it's going to hurt anything in the long run, but it's definitely not as pretty as the first batch I made where I did it right. So learn from my mistake. Don't forget to add the clear gel when it calls for it in the recipe. Definitely want to make sure you leave 1 inch of headspace at the top of your jars, because pie fillings, especially apple pie filling, has a tendency to siphon, which means it bubbles over and leaks out under the lid when it's boiling. You don't want that to happen. Another trick is to let the jars cool down in the canner for about 5 minutes after they're done water bath canning. As always, I will clean the rims of my jars really well with a paper towel dipped in vinegar. I do not want any of that sticky, that was not good, pie filling between the lid and the rim of the jar, otherwise I might have a faulty seal. So I just went back to refer to the book to make sure I was saying the right processing time, and I'm not. For my altitude above 6,000 feet, I'm at 6,200 feet, I need to process them in boiling water for 40 minutes. So I'm glad I checked. Now, the other jars that I did, I don't think I did that long, so I may need to reprocess them. So that's how you make a nice apple pie filling, just in time for the holidays and for gift giving. I want to thank everybody who stuck it out this far in the video. If you're not a subscriber, I invite you to subscribe. I'm a brand new YouTube channel. I'm still learning how to make videos, but it's really been a labor of love. Thanks for visiting Southwest Homestead.